I'm simply saying that based on the information we initially had available and have available, we do not have any indication at this point of premeditation or pre-planned attacks.
Certainly on that particular question, I would say yes. They were killed in the course of a terrorist attack on our embassy.
We also reported that the ambassador specifically mentioned the rise in Islamic extremism, the growing al-Qaeda presence in Libya, and said he was on an al-Qaeda hit list. The information for that report, like all of CNN's reporting, was carefully vetted. Some of that information was found in a personal journal of Ambassador Stevens in his handwriting. We came upon the journal through our reporting and notified the family.
What happened in Benghazi was a terrorist attack.
There's no doubt that the kind of weapons that were used, the ongoing assault, that it wasn't just a mob action. Now, we don't have all the information yet.
If you're citing that on September 12th, the president called it terrorism. He used a phrase like active terror. Active terror. No of active terror. Well, then why were you at this podium for several days after that saying we don't know if it's terrorism? If you're now
I never said that. I never said we don't know if it's terrorism.
It was apparent to me that we were the last flag flying in Benghazi. We were the last thing on their target list.
I said we'd refocus on the people who actually attacked us on 9/11, and today al-Qaeda's on its heels and Osama bin Laden is no more.
What were you first told about the attack? Why were people talking about protests? When people in the consulate first saw armed men attacking with guns, there were no protesters.
Because
why
that's
did that
exactly
go on for
what
weeks?
we were told by the intelligence community. The intelligence community told us that. As they learned more facts about exactly what happened, they changed their assessment. We weren't told they wanted more security again. We did not know they wanted more security again. And by the way, at the time, we were told exactly, we said exactly what the intelligence community told us that they knew.
So Biden claims he did not know there were requests for more security, but State Department officials admitted on Capitol Hill this week at a hearing that the requests were made and refused. Jay Carney, the president's spokesperson, was asked about Biden's comments earlier today.
He was speaking directly for himself and for the president. He meant the White House.
Okay.
Poor Joe Biden.
Wow.
Wow.
Broke news.
Even you agree. That was bizarre.
No, well, he was on something. The opposite of what Obama was on.
Okay.
It's been suggested that budget cuts were responsible for a lack of security in Benghazi, and I'd like to ask Ms. Lamb, you made this decision personally. Was there any budget consideration and lack of budget which led you not to increase the number of people in the security force there?
No, sir.
Why, if the State Department knew that it was a terrorist attack all along, would they send out Susan Rice to say that it wasn't? If you're saying that somehow every embassy is asking for security, then that's even worse. Then that means that the State Department doesn't understand the threat of terror in the Middle East.
Congress hasn't passed a budget in 1,262 days. And I think it's despicable that the reporters and the liberals on the left are not holding them to the same standard that they would hold any other person, a commander-in-chief.
Anybody? Well, they did hold people's intelligence committees for 9/11, their failure to tell people what was going to happen because it would have been stopped if we had.
Bob, September 25th, 2 weeks after the attacks. September 25th,
exactly
2 weeks after the attacks.
No, wait, no, Eric, very important. He just said that President Bush knew the intel and he could have stopped 9/11.
I didn't say President Bush. I said the administration. If the CIA and the FBI had talked 9/11 would not happen.
When they weren't allowed because they weren't allowed to by law? That is an outrageous thing. You should take it back before we get out of the block.
I'm not going to take it back.
While appearing on CNN yesterday ahead of the debate, the Obama deputy campaign manager claimed that the only reason the Benghazi terror attack, the attack that killed our ambassador and 3 other Americans, is a political issue, get this, is because of Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. It's all their fault. Watch this.
You know, in terms of the politicization of this, you know, we are here at a debate, and I hope we get to talk about the debate. But the entire reason that this has become the political topic it is because of Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. It's a big part of their stump speech, and it's reckless and irresponsible.
But Stephanie,
Maybe next they'll blame Big Bird. Now, even after receiving heat from both sides, Cutter stood by those outrageous claims when she appeared on Special Report with Bret Baier, trying everything she could do to blame anybody else for the tragedy in Libya.
What are you suggesting here? Are you suggesting that we're playing politics with this?
I'm not suggesting anything. You said that
you have to
the
concede.
entire reason this has become the political topic.
Right.
4 people are dead.
Absolutely. And this administration, let me just get my sentence out. This administration has treated this entire tragedy with the utmost seriousness to get to the bottom of the attacks, hold the perpetrators accountable, and make sure that it never happens again. That's why we are being responsible and diligent about our investigation. Now, at the same time that we're doing that, we have 2 people campaigning around the country accusing us of covering something up. Just yesterday, Mitt Romney accused us of covering this up.
You are covering it up. Well, no one asked us for any extra security. That is we have the evidence, the proof. It was presented this week. And they're still standing, they're blaming Romney and Ryan that this is a political issue. We have 4 dead Americans. We had requests for security. They didn't give it to them.
She will do anything to politicize anything, no matter how ridiculous. This isn't about politics. Benghazi is not about politics. Benghazi is about 4 American diplomats.
Blaming Romney and Ryan. She is guilty.
Absolutely insane.
No.
She's out of her mind.
She is guilty of the very thing that she is accusing Romney and Ryan of. The American people, the family of these 4 dead Americans, have the right to answers. Why wasn't security given? Why was it denied? Why did they say it was associated with a movie trailer? Why did they say it was spontaneous when, Tamara, we knew within 24 hours that that was not true. And for weeks they keep pushing this false narrative.
Well, okay, first of all, I agree with you in the fact that Stephanie Cutter needs to keep her mouth shut.
The White House said and stuck with the story. So this was spontaneous. So do you spontaneously, you just happen to have a rocket-propelled grenade and a mortar in your back pocket? They told us it was about a movie trailer. That turned out to be false.
That, to me, was the worst thing that the president could have done. At the UN, he gave that speech and said that this
2 weeks later.
This was YouTube over and over and over again.
But the president knew within 24 hours what the truth was, and why would they then deny security and then deny that they denied it?
Well, because there is an investigation. Look, the Republicans want the fast and furious. They want the documents right away, and look at what we got. We got
executive privilege.
No.
Stonewalling and then executive privilege.
CIA and former Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff, both officials in the George W. Bush administration, say they are, quote, disappointed by the vice president's remarks, and go on to say in a statement, quote, it is clear that any failure was not on the part of the intelligence community, but on the part of the White House decision makers who should have listened to and acted on available intelligence. The vice president also said that the White House had not been alerted to any additional requests for security in Libya. The White House later clarified that security decisions for embassy facilities are made by the State Department and countered the idea that the administration should have done more to prevent the attack.
I can tell you absolutely that there was no actionable intelligence that suggested there would be an attack at the Benghazi facility. Absolutely, categorically, that is a fact.
Maybe it's just incompetence. Maybe it's a series of innocent mistakes. But my goodness, when you had 3 attacks, violent attacks inside Benghazi, on the Red Cross office, the consulate, and then postings on Facebook that we're coming after you on September 10th, they didn't have any actionable intelligence? What? I mean, this is ridiculous. And I think the press is partly culpable here.
Still, Congress wants to know more. A House committee started investigating the attack this week, and now the Senate Homeland Security Committee has said it will do the same. The Senate committee says it wants to know what happened and why the Obama administration's, quote, initial public assessments of this attack were subsequently proven inaccurate.
I am really furious about the lack of follow-up by the media.
Why didn't the story make the front page of the New York Times? And we all know the answer, of course, because it would have made the Obama administration look bad, and they didn't want that. And look,
if the Obama campaign is trying to minimize the blowback from this, are the media helping them do that?
Duh. Yes, of course.
If you heard it on radio, Biden won. If you watched it on television, he lost.
I think he had a very strong debate. But was diminished, I thought personally, was diminished by the smirking, and he overdid it.
I thought it was unattractive. I thought it was rude, and I have a feeling it'll come across to an awful lot of people as rude. It looked like a cranky old man to some extent debating a polite young man.
I don't believe that I have ever seen a debate in which one participant was as openly disrespectful of the other, as Biden was to Paul Ryan tonight.
It's pretty amazing how often he was interrupting and hectoring and laughing and smiling and grimacing and grinning. You know, it's almost like they put Joker juice in the water that he had there on the stage.
He was so rude. He was so toothy. He was so over dramatic. He was rolling his eyes. He was sighing.
By the way,
but on the other hand, you know, it's Joe Biden. I thought Joe Biden did great, and I couldn't be prouder of him.
He embarrassed himself. He embarrassed the office. He embarrassed the country. He lied about taxes. He lied about contraception. He lied about his voting record on wars. And most importantly, he lied about what went on in Libya. The scary fact is this guy is one heartbeat away. A condescending, smug, morally and intellectually bankrupt man is one heartbeat away from the presidency.
We weren't told that they wanted more security there in Libya. He directly contradicted the sworn testimony of the regional security director for the State Department. What we've been seeing is an effort by President Obama and Vice President Biden to say, no, it was really Secretary Clinton. It was the State Department that you ought to be looking at and talking to and criticizing here or questioning here, as opposed to us. 2 weeks after the attacks, the President of the United States stood in the well of the United Nations and he talked about the YouTube video 6 times and did not say that these attacks were an act of terrorism.
We now know from the testimony this week and from a briefing given by senior State Department officials to reporters that the State Department knew immediately what was going on here. They knew what was going on. The State Department, so far as we can tell, never thought that this was some kind of a spontaneous reaction that went crazy. They never thought that. And yet...
Well, in fact, there was no spontaneous demonstration.
Exactly. There were no demonstrations.
There was no protest
at all.
It was all
Quiet. All right. Yet by the end of the week, here came Susan Rice, an official of the State Department, on this program and all those others, to say that the best information they had from intelligence was that this was a reaction to the video sparked by what happened in Cairo. I don't think that was ever true, and I don't think the State Department ever thought that, and it's unimaginable to me that Susan Rice believed that was true. I think that Susan Rice went out on that Sunday because no one else would do it.
We have a dead ambassador, 2 Navy SEALs dead, another security officer dead. The president answers this the next morning by flying to Vegas for a fundraiser.
When you're seeking Sunday show guests for this program, where do you get the answers from the administration? Where does that come from?
Comes from the White House.
Exactly.
Always.
So
for anybody in the administration.
So anybody in the administration. So if Susan Rice is going out, that has been okayed, approved, and is by the White House. That's where this comes from, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't like having to answer the questions.